It was a rainy evening when the little girl stood shivering outside the tall iron gates of the mansion. Her small hands clutched the rusty bars as tears streaked down her pale cheeks. Her voice cracked as she whispered desperately, "Please, I'm your daughter, please, believe me." The security guard glanced at her, confused and irritated. Children sometimes wandered around, but this one, barefoot, soaked, and trembling, looked different. Her eyes held a strange mixture of fear and hope. He shook his head, trying to ignore her pleas, until a car's headlights swept across the driveway. The black luxury sedan rolled to a stop. Out stepped a man in his early 50s, tall, dressed sharply in a tailored suit. His name was Richard Hale, a self-made millionaire known for his empire of hotels. He paused when he saw the child gripping the gate. "What's going on here?" Richard asked, his voice stern but curious. The girl's eyes widened. She pressed her face against the bars and cried louder, "Daddy!"
"It's me, I'm your daughter."
The words froze him in place. The staff gasped, exchanging nervous glances. Richard frowned, shaken, but quickly dismissed it as nonsense. "Take her away from here," he ordered the guard, but as he turned toward his mansion, the sound of her crying pierced through the walls he had built around his heart. To the little girl's story, her name was Emily, just 8 years old. She had spent her life in poverty, raised by her mother Sarah, a woman who had once loved Richard deeply. Years ago, Sarah and Richard had been inseparable. But when Richard's ambition took over, he left chasing wealth and status. He didn't know then that Sarah carried his child. Sarah struggled alone. She worked in diners, cleaned houses, and often skipped meals so Emily could eat. Emily grew up hearing about the father she never met, a man Sarah described not with anger, but with hope. One day, Sarah told her, "You'll meet your father and he'll love you. He just doesn't know you exist." But fate was cruel. Sarah fell gravely ill. With trembling hands, she pressed an old photograph of Richard into Emily's palm. "Find him," she whispered. "Tell him you're his daughter. Promise me you'll try." And so Emily, with nothing but courage and her mother's last words, walked for miles until she found herself at the gates of the Hale mansion. To Richard's inner conflict inside the mansion, Richard tried to shake off the encounter, but the girl's words haunted him. He poured himself a glass of whiskey, staring at the rain-soaked window. Could it be true? He thought back to Sarah, the only woman who had loved him before the money, before the empire. Regret weighed heavy on his chest. The next morning he ordered his assistant to investigate. What they uncovered shook him. Sarah had indeed passed away just days earlier, and she had a daughter named Emily, his daughter. Richard was stunned. The empire he had built suddenly felt hollow compared to the fragile bond he had unknowingly abandoned. But he was also terrified. Could he, a man consumed by business and pride, step into the role of a father? Would the world see him as a fraud? Emily's struggles. Meanwhile, Emily was taken to a children's shelter after being turned away. Life there was harsh. She was bullied for being quiet and for clutching the torn photograph of Richard. She cried at night, whispering to her mother's memory that she had tried. "He didn't want me," she sobbed. "Maybe I'm not worth loving." But deep inside, Emily still held on to hope. She believed in her mother's words. To the reunion 1 week later, Richard appeared at the shelter. Emily froze when she saw him walk in. Her small voice trembled. "You came?" He knelt before her, his eyes glossy. "Emily, I should have come long ago." His voice broke, and for the first time in decades, Richard Hale, the untouchable millionaire, allowed tears to fall. He embraced her, and Emily clung to him as though she would never let go. The challenges of becoming a family. Life didn't change overnight. Emily struggled to adjust to a world of luxury. She felt out of place in the marble halls of the mansion. The other children at her new private school mocked her clothes and accent. Richard tried to shower her with gifts, but Emily only wanted his time. "I don't need toys," she told him one night. "I just want you to sit with me like Mom used to." Richard realized money couldn't heal wounds. It was love, patience, and presence that mattered. He canceled meetings, cooked meals with her, and even learned bedtime stories. Slowly, Emily began to smile again, but not everyone supported them. Business partners whispered that Richard's image would be ruined by taking in a random street child. Some relatives resented Emily, fearing she would claim the inheritance. Richard faced criticism, but for the first time in his life, he didn't care. To the turning point one evening, Emily showed him a drawing. It was a simple crayon sketch of her family, her mother in heaven, and Richard holding her hand. Beneath it, she had written, "Now I'm not alone." Richard's heart ached. That night, he stood before his staff and declared, "This is my daughter. She is my family. Anyone who has a problem with that can leave." It was a turning point. For the first time, Richard put love above reputation. 2 resolution and message years later, Emily grew into a confident young woman. With her father's support, she pursued her dreams, not of wealth, but of helping children who had lost parents. Together, Richard and Emily started a foundation in Sarah's name, ensuring no child would ever feel abandoned again. Richard finally understood true wealth was not in hotels, cars, or bank accounts. It was in love, forgiveness, and second chances.